listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good afternoon, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to another episode here of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. I'm your host, Michael Leva, joined as I am each and every Tuesday by Josh Moser of WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station. And also, Josh, congratulations on the 2024 Sports Talent Nomination Award that you've been nominated for at the 48th Annual Suncoast Regional Emmy Awards. That's a mouthful, but congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, you're a big part of it. I think everybody here, I'm just grateful for all of you. It's awesome that, we get to create this content and that you guys love it. So I think it's an award for everybody if we end up winning an Emmy. So Emmys are always fun. It's a fun night. And really just it's a reflection of the audience. And that's why we do this. And hopefully we can do this for a little bit while longer. Maybe, 10, 15, 20 years. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be outstanding if we could do that. And hopefully one of those years we can talk about a Super Bowl or something like that. That would really be fun and pump up the number.
That's a big question. I don't know.
It's a big question. That's asking a lot.
I hope.
I've been alive 47 years now. I've seen him play in the Super Bowl twice. I was very young both times. Very young. We haven't gotten back since. It was 1985. But maybe someday. That's why we do this, because we hope. Before we get to talking about the Miami Dolphins, their week off, the win before the week off versus the Patriots, and of course this week's game versus the Colts, a quick word from our sponsor.
The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com.
All right, so the Dolphins are coming off a bye week. Before the bye, they had their second win of the season, 15-10 over the Patriots. Wasn't pretty, but I think the Dolphins, as much as any team in the league, just needed a win badly, and you don't get style points in this league. 15-10, we saw them run the ball more with more success, especially in the second half. The other side of the ball, they did give up 7.9 yards per carry to Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, but they also didn't let the Patriots score much when it mattered. So you take the good with the bad, I guess. What are your thoughts on that win and then heading into the bye week for Miami as we sit here 2-3?
Well, I mean, the win was ugly, but most importantly, it's a out of there. You get a little bit of confidence. I think the biggest takeaway is you look at how much this defense is missing. I understand the Patriots offense is, not very good, obviously, along with the Dolphins. It's one of the worst in the league's bottom three. But you come out of there with something. You get some modicum of confidence. I think a positive note would be that Tyler Huntley played much better than he did against the Titans, and you hope that he would take another step in this offense this week against the Colts, who've also struggled. They're kind of in a similar situation where they had Joe Flacco come in, replace Anthony Richardson. It looks like Anthony Richardson most likely will start on Sunday. We'll kind of have to see how the week plays out. But, from this defensive perspective, I think Anthony Weaver's done a phenomenal job. You look at you're missing Jaylen Phillips. You really didn't replace Christian Wilkins. I think Zach Sealer, if you had to give out a team MVP award, I think he's been the most consistent on both sides of the ball. I think he's done a phenomenal job. And then you're trying to figure out if Javon Holland's going to play with a cast. We'll find out more tomorrow, or if he's going to miss some time. Hopefully Jordan Poyer can come back. So you're potentially down 2 safeties this week. But we'll see what happens. That is a spot where they have Marcus May and they've got Elijah Campbell. So a little bit of depth on the back end. But, you get a win, you get some confidence, you go into the bye, you really hopefully look at yourselves, try to figure out what's going to be the best situation for Tyler Huntley, figure out what pieces will be available. And you hope that Odell Beckham Jr. can get involved now here in the offense, because this team needs that third wide receiver desperately. And then, as Mike McDaniel said yesterday, Mike, he does expect Tua to come back at some point this season. So I think there's a lot of positives coming for the Dolphins. And I think if they can get a win this week and carry that momentum through and steal one on the road here against the Colts, which I believe is a winnable game, you're looking pretty good with the Cardinals coming in right here the following week.
Yeah, I think what they come out with after that win versus the Patriots, more than anything, is just hope. Because at 2-3, you still have hope you can turn this around. The schedule, which at the start of the year looked like it was brutal, especially late in the year. Now, you got the Jets are a little bit of a mess, even though they did add Adams today. They're still a little bit of a mess. Cleveland's a little bit of a mess. Patriots are a total mess. Raiders seem to be a total mess. Like, there's winnable games. Even this game versus the Colts. The Colts, they've won some games this year, but they haven't looked great in these wins. So the schedule doesn't look as bad as it did probably 6-8 weeks ago. And, at 2-3, if they can find a way to win, I don't care how ugly it looks this week versus the Colts at 3-3, they're probably not going to win the AFC East, because I just don't think we ever beat the Bills, number one. And plus, they just seem like they're just way in front of Miami right now. But to just even crawl back to get to a 6 or 7 seed would be a huge accomplishment for this team based on how the season started.
I think so, but should that be the accomplishment? I mean,
no, it shouldn't. But I think you have to also reevaluate where you are throughout the season. As we sit on October 15th, one more game without the starting quarterback, most likely. It could be more, but I would think most people assume one more game with all the injuries. No Jaylen Phillips, Holland with a hand injury, no word on Chubb. Wynn's probably not. Like, you got to reevaluate and reset the expectations. I think as of today, that in the big picture after the year, if you want a clean house, go for it, because they totally missed all the expectations for the season. But from October 15th, where we sit, if they find a way into the playoffs, that's a heck of a job considering where they were to where they got.
Right. But I think the bigger question kind of behind the scenes is Chris Grier fighting to keep his job, or is he safe?
Oh, he better be. He better be.
Right. But I think that impacts a lot as we approach the trade deadline. And I think the first domino that has to fall is, when will Tua actually come back? We know that the first game would be against the Cardinals. But if you get to 3-3, all of a sudden you're 4-3, you beat the Cardinals with Tua coming back, then you're maybe in buy mode. If not, then maybe it's sell mode to try to figure out, what you can get. But this team is built for now. And we talked about that huge contract that they gave Jalen Ramsey. You've got to figure out how to pay Javon Holland if he wants to stay, because you're not a fan of the compensatory pick because it doesn't help you.
No, I'm not. It's just it's dumb.
Right. So as of right now, if I take a step back and I look at the AFC in general, I think it's pretty wide open to get a bottom 3 wild card spot. I mean, you have the Chiefs who are undefeated, but I mean, they look like a very beatable team. The Bengals have struggled. Obviously, the Ravens struggled early, but they're there. But I mean, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the Ravens and the Bills, and then it's kind of everybody
and Houston.
else.
I would put Houston in that mix as well.
Exactly.
Those 4 are probably going to win
well.
their divisions. I'd be shocked if one of those 4 didn't win their divisions. After that, though, you got Pittsburgh's okay, but they're making a quarterback change for some reason. I have no idea why when you're 4-2, but okay, they're making a quarterback change. The Chargers, I think, are 3-2 or something. They're in the mix, I would say.
Yeah.
After that,
they're not.
Jacksonville, Colts, Titans, blah. Jets, blah.
Exactly.
Patriots are done. Cleveland's done. There's not much, so it's like they can sneak in as a wild card. But I think this game versus Indy, you want to get a tiebreaker over them. That would help it, possibly at the end of the year. And 2, just to get to 500 would be a huge step, because, again, Arizona might not be world beaters. They did go to San Francisco win, so they scare me a little. But after that, 2 road games at the Bills, at the Rams, and the Rams are getting healthy probably by then, with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua coming back, which just Miami's luck. They couldn't play him when they were injured. They're going to play him when they're healthy. So those are two tricky spots. But if they can just get to 500, everything's in front of them then.
Exactly. You talk about hope coming out of the Patriots game. That's the biggest thing. So this team still has something to play for. And when you cover teams that know that they do not have a tomorrow, if you will, where the playoffs are so far out of the picture, it gets ugly real fast. And that's when the finger pointing starts. It's just the nature of the league.
How it works in this league, yeah.
Here is an opportunity for, Tyler Huntley, because this may be the last one that he has, to try to, get a job next season. I mean, players don't think of it like this, but, we do in the media as we extrapolate the storylines. But, I think Raheem Mostert's someone that we didn't touch on. Like, I think he was big coming back. Jaylen Wright continues to develop. He looks like a steal in the 4th round. Good job to move up and get him. I know you trade I think it was a 3rd round pick next year to move up to get him. So, I mean, he looks solid. And then if Teron Armstead can stay healthy and the rest of this team can stay healthy.
Oh, we lost Josh real quick here. Hopefully he can rejoin us. Hold on.
Hold up.
Josh is back. We're
Everybody
back. Relax.
Well, welcome to the last
as you were saying.
Yeah, I think one thing that I do want to bring up, Mike, and look, Mike McDaniel. And, we know that Mike McDaniel is the perfect head coach for Tua. And you want to see him continue to make strides. It's his 3rd year. You throw away the 1st year, 2nd year, you kind of figured out, this was supposed to be the year. Adjust expectations because Tua's out. Now you're calling games for Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, now Tyler Huntley twice here. So I want to see him take a step and evolve this offense. And, you're hoping that everything goes right. Like, everything is there, at least on the outside, for this team to succeed this week and beat the Colts. But, I want to see how they execute. I think this will be a very telling week. And, even though it's week 7, this will kind of teeter the season if you get back to 500
100%.
or not. So we talk about hope.
Because if you're 2-4, again, with trips not far away, to the Bills, to the Rams, those are tough games. You're like, that's a big hill, or that's a big hole to try to get out of. But if you're 3-3, beat Arizona, okay, even if you're losing the next 2, you're still 3-4. Then you got Patriots, Raiders coming up. Okay, 2 games we should win at home. And then it gets, like I said, you still got the Jets twice. Probably have to sweep them this year, honestly. Just have to do it. And then you got the Browns, not too tough. So you can navigate a way to get to 9 or 10 wins easily. But a loss here makes it much more challenging to do that. And we lost Josh again. I'm sure he'll be right back. he's going in and out in the triumphant return again of Josh Moser. So you were talking about buyers and sellers. And this is probably a topic we're going to have a lot between now and November 5th. And whoever in the NFL made the trade deadline the same day as Election Day should be fired tomorrow. That's a horrible day for the trade deadline. There's too much news going on that day. But okay, it's November 5th. One name that's out there. Hassan Reddick. Probably could have him for a bag of chips right now. The Jets just don't want him. He signed with a new agent who you know very well. Miami. Here's the deal with Miami. Everyone goes, well, they just took Chop Robinson. You got Chubb, you got Phillips. Jalen Phillips is out for the year. They tried to trade for Matthew Judon in August. He went to Atlanta instead because they offered more. Could you see Chris Grier, if they win this week, I think probably, maybe say, you know what, let me throw a 4th or a 5th, make it, if he plays a certain amount of snaps, it goes up around whatever, to the Jets for Hassan Reddick. Now, the problem is you got to pay him. That's probably the biggest hurdle here. But
right,
he could help. And they tried to trade for Matthew Judon when they had Jalen Phillips. Now we know he's gone for the rest of the year. Reddick makes more sense than Judon ever did. What would be your thoughts on just throwing it out there into the world?
If I'm Chris Grier, I need to figure out if Jalen Phillips is coming back, because realistically, it's a contract year.
Well, he's on a 5th-year option next year, so he's back next year.
So he's back next year regardless. So are you going to pay him long term? You're probably going to let him play out that 5th-year option. But he would be a former 1st-round pick. You're going to figure out you're going to have to pay him, or let him walk. We'll see. I mean, I think a mistake was made in letting Andrew Van Ginkel go for roughly $2 million. You gave that money to Shaq Barrett, essentially, and then Shaq retires. So that's something that I know that Chris Grier would love to have back. I think it all depends on if Tua comes back, because depending on Tua comes back, you have to figure out, are you giving yourself a chance to make it the run of the playoffs and get hot at the right time to make a run at this thing in the postseason? Or are you going to let Tua, rest, recover, and then try to reset this thing next year? So Chubb, I know, has an out in his contract. You could essentially replace Reddick with him. We saw Grier not pay Emmanuel Ogbah $15 million that he was owed. They were able to get him back for a steal for $5 million. I think he's done a phenomenal job, especially for that money. But it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of similarities right now with the Jets and the Dolphins. They're essentially in the same position.
Of each other. Yep, carbon copies.
So you just make a trade for Davante Adams, and now I'm Hassan Reddick. Your life's been in New York. You wanted to get a deal done there. You hired Drew Rosenhaus to get a deal done with the Jets. I can tell you that is their number one priority. But if they don't give them money, it's a great relationship that Drew has living in Miami right here with Chris Grier. He's got 12 players on the Dolphins already. So, and we're not paying any state tax here. So there's incentive to come this way. But with Davante coming, if Reddick believes that, that's his spot, they'll get the deal done there. But if I'm Chris Grier, again, it's this offseason, the way that the roster was constructed is that they paid aging players or players that were previously hurt. And, this team has to get younger. I think all of the chips were kind of in on this year, hoping that Tua would replicate the success that he had last year. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened with the concussion. But again, it's only week 7. So there's so many factors that go into that decision, basically, is kind of where I'm going with Reddick. Would he help? Absolutely. But
I think if they win this week, people would be more open to it because they could see a path to the playoffs. And once you're in, who knows? Maybe they get lucky for once in their miserable lives. But if they lose and you're sitting there 2-4, I think a lot of, from a fan perspective at least, and probably most too in the media would be like, what are you doing? You're 2-4. You're going to Buffalo soon. You're done. It's like, why are you trading away picks for a guy who has had some type of issues with the Jets since he was traded there in April?
Yeah, but let me throw out this scenario. So you just traded for Davante Adams. You gave up, I believe, a 3rd-round pick that could be a 2nd-round pick. You're going to have to pay Davante. He's going to have to restructure his deal. I think his cap number is huge next year. It's like
no guaranteed money after this year, I think. So either they're going to move on from both Rodgers and him, which makes no sense if you just give up possibly a 2nd-round pick or even a 3rd. So they're probably going to have to restructure him. Probably, yes.
Right. If I'm looking at the cap, the money, can you keep both in Hassan Reddick and Davante Adams? I mean, that's kind of how, they would have to sort things through with the Jets. So it's obviously at this point, we know Reddick is about his money. He wants to get paid. So, is there enough salary cap space? I mean, we're seeing all these ridiculous signing bonuses now. So there's always ways to move around the cap, but eventually that dead cap will catch up with you.
Oh, eventually.
But again, if you're a lame duck general manager, that's going to be somebody else's problem. So
someone else's problem, not mine.
Kick the can down the road. So I think that's why this game is that important. And I can call Drew. I haven't talked to him since, other than like congratulating him on Reddick and him telling me he wants to get a deal done with the Jets.
I'm sure.
I think if that deal it depends on how fast they want to move. Like, I'm sure the Jets want him to play this upcoming weekend.
The Jets are moving fast on a lot of things, so I'm thinking if it happens, it's going to happen soon because they just fired their head coach, took the offensive coordinator, took away play calling, then they trade for Adams. Right. They're making all their moves like now, not like 1 week from now. So I think whatever happens with Reddick probably will happen in the next 72 hours. Probably.
That's what I'm saying. But if you can wait until next week and figure out, oh shoot, the Dolphins beat the Colts, there's actually some incentive down here. And that Tua's locked up long term. But I mean, if you're looking specifically at the defense, which is what he cares about, do you like Anthony Weaver? You know that Jalen Ramsey's going to be there. What's going to happen to Javon Hall? And these are all questions as a player, you're trying to figure out, what's going to best suit me so that I can be the best that I can be for the amount of money. So you can take less money to come here because of the tax situation. You're staying in the same division, a lot of familiarity. But hey, I like living in New York. I can make as much side money here. This is where I'm comfortable. I like the people around me. I mean, there's so many factors that come into play. But again, it goes back to Chris Grier of like, I'm all in on a Super Bowl. Stephen Ross is getting older. I've got, I need to make a splash now or else I'm going to lose my job. So F it, like, oh, I'm going all in and we can pick up the pieces later. Or if he feels like, all right, I'm going to be here. We had things that we couldn't control with injuries. So now we're going to kind of reset as we look at Tua now as the quarterback for 4 years. It just depends on the mindset that he has, is I think the biggest thing that factors into decisions like these.
Yeah. And as we sort of wrap up here, so Miami at the Colts this week, 1:00 on Fox. Anthony Richardson's probably going to be the quarterback from all the reports. It sounds like Jonathan Taylor didn't play last week. I don't know his status. It's only Tuesday when we are here live on the show, so I don't know if he's going to play or not. Michael Pittman, they're talking about IR, but made like huge plays at the end of the game, so he's probably going to be playing for the Colts. So you got to factor that in. Miami, Javon Holland seems iffy. He might miss one game and then play with a cast. I think is kind of what some people think, but who knows? Holland. Yeah. Achane still in the concussion protocol. I think he was at practice in a red jersey, non-contact, which is a sign he will play this week, probably, but you never know with the concussions. It's all probably. Other than that, Jordan Poyer we mentioned, quarterback we know, and we lost Josh again. He'll be back in a second. I would think, I held that. I would think that low-scoring game, Miami's got to make it ugly, run the ball, win time of possession, hopefully get a turnover or two. That's kind of the recipe.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just getting the balls to your playmakers in space. And I want to see Odell Beckham Jr. work more into this offense. I think Jonnu Smith is another weapon that's been underutilized. It's, been interesting to see that. I know the passing's been down throughout the league, but, it's almost like teams are daring the Dolphins to run the football. And they just really haven't been doing a great job of that. And we understand the offensive line and how all this team was constructed. But it's like, okay, these are the pieces that you have. Mike McDaniel, show me a masterclass. Like, this is your wheelhouse. So how do you put these players in different positions? We saw that crazy flea flicker with Jared Goff. Down here we saw an offensive lineman catch touchdown this week. Like, there's ways to do things. And shooting college football, USC Penn State, they had a tight end hike the ball and then run and catch one for a touchdown. So, I mean, it's like, show me some creativity and, do something fun for the players. And it seems like there's enough on this roster to beat this Colts team. You should win this. You should win this game. You've got your rest, and now you got to go win. You got 12 weeks in a row. Like, this is a game off the bye you should be the most prepared for. And, again, I'm very excited to see how, what happens, because I feel like this week will be very telling as far as, what this team can do for the rest of the season. And hopefully they play like we think that they're capable of, and then we get a little bit more momentum going into this next little stretch of the schedule with the possibility of Tua coming back.
Yeah, if they win versus the Colts, and if they announce he's coming back versus Arizona, that Arizona game is Hard Rock Stadium is gonna be rocking, because you're gonna have fans of the Dolphins with hope in their hearts again. Here comes number one to save the day, and here the Dolphins fans are gonna be talking so much trash on social media, probably not warranted, but they will. And they're going to have so much hope in their hearts. It's going to be crazy. And that's what makes the NFL fun. But if they lose, you're going to hear a lot of the same old Dolphins. And unfortunately, that's how this league is. But we'll see what happens. Everyone be sure to watch Josh Moser on WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station, and follow him on Twitter at the Mose Knows, and also on Instagram at the Mose Knows. Check out everything that we have up at the website at DolphinsTalk.com. We got a bunch of new stuff up there.
He's the best.
We'll be back with more shows later this week. Josh, thank you. I'll see you soon. I'll be down there next week for that Arizona game, so hopefully I get to see you.
I'm excited.
I can't wait. It's been raining up here and so cold. I got to get away from here, so I got to get down there. The weather's
Come
been so
on
crummy.
down.
Which I know down there hasn't been great either. I know for other reasons, but it's been miserable up here by us too. Everyone, have a great day, and we'll talk to you again after a while.